Good evening and welcome to Free Association. My name's Dennis. It is almost midnight. It's 20 minutes to midnight, Sunday evening. And I've just been having a conversation online in a chat group that I'm part of about psychosomatic illness and trauma and what role they might have in illness. My argument is that viruses don't exist, so that psychosomatic is one potential mechanism for the things that are allocated to viruses to exist. So I haven't got all that much evidence of that because it's not a fully developed theory as yet, but it's part of developing the theory is having the conversation online and talking to myself on podcasts and things like that. It always helps me to clarify things. So the conclusion that I came to during this conversation is that germ theory is a manifestation of fight or flight responses. So the physical response, which is hormonal essentially and neurological, being projected out into the world looks like there might be an invisible enemy somewhere. At which point you've got to come up with a theory. So germ theory and viruses are the result of that fight or flight response. So it only takes one person to come up with a theory, and then if they can convince enough people, it becomes mainstream authority. And I think that's what's happened with germ theory. That's pretty much what I think has happened with germ theory. So it's a manifestation of a physical response as a theory, as an imagination, ultimately. So yeah, that's where that kind of came from. So the role of imagination in all of these things is absolutely key, because we're living inside of that imagined thought. All it takes is one thought and people start living inside of it. It becomes kind of a Venn diagram that contains a whole group of people. So each thought, each theory becomes part of a Venn diagram that contains overlapping groups of people sometimes. And the consensus is obviously the most overlap. And the fringes have the least overlap probably, or have an overlap within themselves, have an internal consistency, but don't overlap with the main bulk of the Venn diagram. If that makes sense, that's the way that I visualize it anyway. So you're living inside of an idea, inside of a concept of disease, and inside of that concept is another concept called germ theory. And once you live inside of the germ theory concept, then viruses become a possibility. So there's another concept called a virus. And then within the concept of viruses, there's a concept of virology. And within the concept of virology, there's computer modeling and ways of coming up with evidence and all of those other things that are science-based. So, but if you step back through all of those layers to the point where you don't believe that viruses exist, then there's no need to go any further than that into the concepts. So that's kind of what I've done. I'm trying to lead people in that direction a little bit in my own kind of clunky way online. I don't know how well it's working, but I've developed a little bit more understanding of what I think might be happening. I do think there's a telepathic element to all of this as well, but I can't prove that. The layers of concepts is kind of reasonably easy for people to get. That's not a new idea. But in terms of disease, it's like once you get to the point where viruses don't exist and you've sorted out issues with your body that people didn't think you could correct using psychological techniques, which I have, and I've got evidence of that, then disease potentially doesn't exist either, or at least some diseases don't exist. Others might, but some, certainly the psychosomatic ones, you pull yourself out of all of that Venn diagram out to the point where a specific disease doesn't exist. And if you're the person that's been included in that Venn diagram with that disease, it's in your interests, really, to pull yourself out of the concepts to the point where disease doesn't exist, because then you can start manifesting health instead of manifesting disease. So this is my hypothesis at the moment, and this is the way that I'm approaching everything. All right, thanks for listening, and I'll see you again soon.